Pretty big week this week. This week is Summer Game Fest. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Briefly go over the schedule so people listening may know which conferences to tune into and what I think of each one going into them. We're also going to talk about Activision Time Warner. Apparently, Activision attempted to buy Time Warner at some point, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Street Fighter 6, all my opinions on it. And we're going to talk about Comcast attempting to get into gaming. All that. Bit more than just that, too. So, I hope you enjoy the show today. Please, if you do, make sure, if you're listening on YouTube, to subscribe, like, comment, tell me your thoughts on anything, click the notification bell, and tune in for future episodes. If you are listening on a different podcasting service, if they have a like, that'd be great. If they have some kind of comment, if they have a subscribe button, if they have a follow button, I know some podcast services have a follow button, just subscribe to the RSS feed, whatever. Just make sure you're tuning in. I post these about once a week. So please tune in this week, next week, the week after. Future episodes of this podcast about once a week. And all of that really does help. And we are going to get right into things because it is a crammed episode today. So first thing I want to talk about is Street Fighter 6 related, but it's not directly Street Fighter 6. I want to talk about my process of buying this game this week, because man, have I got a story for you. So, after watching some videos on it, reading the reviews, I decided I was going to buy Street Fighter 6 day one. It was $60 instead of the usual $70. And also, the reviews were just exceptionally good. And the World Tour mode had my interest enough. I figured, hey, I'm going to go buy this. And I needed groceries anyway. So I think to myself, hey, I can go to Walmart. I can go to Walmart, get my groceries, and get the game at the same time. And so I head out, get in my car, and then I think about it for a moment. Out of my house, it's easier to turn right towards, essentially towards the local GameStop. So it'd be easier for me to go to GameStop first, and then to Walmart. Plus, my Walmart usually does not get games in day one for some reason. I'm not sure if they're just bad at stocking them and they're in the back or something. Every time I ask, though, they can't find them in the back. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But they're not great about getting the games in on day one. In fact, it was just there again today, a few days later, and they still didn't have Street Fighter 6 in stock. But we'll get to that. So, I go to the GameStop. It's at a mall, so I walk through the mall. I get a little bit of exercise, play some Pokemon Go, get a bite to eat, go to the GameStop, and they tell me they're out. Apparently, they only had enough for pre-orders. So I'm a little bit bummed. But I figure, hey, I still have a Walmart trip. Maybe they'll have it. There's also a Meijer across the street from the Walmart. They'll likely have it. So I go to the Walmart on the other... I'm not going to say other side of town. This is not really the other side of town. It's like the other side of... I'm not even sure the block would be the best way. It's 5-10 minutes away because of traffic. I live in a very traffic-heavy area, so it's fine. I go, need groceries anyway, get my groceries, check electronics. They don't have it either. A little bit annoying. And in fact, they were out of quite a few of the things I wanted for groceries as well. So I was pretty disappointed. I buy my groceries, though. I pack everything in my car, head across the street, go to the Meijer. Meijer doesn't have it either. In fact, Meijer doesn't have any video games, really. I was pretty surprised. I used to get a lot of really good deals at Meijer on video games. I remember when Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain came out. Uh, I waited till it was on PlayStation Plus, but a buddy of mine bought it for like $20 at Meijer just like 6 or so months after it released. Really good deal. And they used to have all kinds of like really good deals like that. I used to check Meijer all the time for video games, see what deals they had. Apparently, they don't really have video games anymore. So I'm disappointed. So I have 2 local game stores near me. I go to the, but it's over by where the mall is. So I drive these 5-10 minutes or whatever through traffic again. I first drop off my groceries at the house and then go towards that area. I check the first one, also out. At this point, I'm pretty annoyed. So I call the other one. They have it in stock. I go over there, and I buy the last one. I really wanted this game physically. I'm glad I was able to finally find it physically. But I did not realize finding physical games, even new ones, was just this much of a pain anymore. Maybe it's just my area. Maybe it's just because of how good Street Fighter 6 is. I don't know what's going on, but this is the most trouble I've had finding a physical copy of like a new game in quite a while. And I was just like really surprised by the whole thing. I'm going to give more of my thoughts on Street Fighter 6 itself later in the episode. For now, I want to talk about something else. Specifically, I want to talk about Microsoft in the UK. So regular listeners will know that I absolutely despise talking about the Microsoft Activision deal. It's just kind of boring, bland. Everyone talks about it. It's just not interesting. It is not an interesting subject in my opinion. But this week, things did heat up a little bit. According to Bloomberg, Microsoft is exploring options to ignore the UK's block and close the deal. Brad Smith is also meeting with UK Chancellor and CMA next week. So, the specifically here is what they're, according to this article, what they're specifically planning here is Microsoft would purchase Activision, regardless of the UK saying, hey, no, you can't do that. And they would just pull out of the UK. They would not sell games there directly. They would not sell the Activision games. I'm not sure if they would sell other Microsoft games. But they would possibly license them through a third party. And so, the likely candidate, I would imagine, would be someone big. We're talking maybe like Meta or Google. Probably not. I think the most likely candidate would probably be Embracer Group. But, someone along those sizes, that size. They would license it through a third party to sell there instead, if they sold them at all. The article doesn't get too specific with that sort of thing, just that they would buy Activision regardless of the UK saying no, and they would just stop selling the Activision games there. This sure is a strategy. I find it interesting that they think these games are worth so much more, that much in the rest of the world, that they're willing to pull out of a part of the country like that, or potentially license it. Licensing fees, that would cost them more money. So I just find the whole thing interesting. Most likely, if they had to do this, the games would not be on Game Pass in the UK. Even if they were to sell them through a third party. So I'm not sure what else there is to say here. I just find the the entire idea to be like just crazy enough to work. But I do have something else I want to talk about. So related to Activision even. So we're just going to talk about that. So according to Variety, Activision nearly bought Time Warner a few years ago. I have the article up in front of me, so I'm going to read a little bit of this as we go. It was by Cynthia Littleton. Bobby Kotick, who is one of the worst human beings on the planet, but he's breaking his silence. Embattled Activision CEO addresses toxic workplace claims as Microsoft deals hangs in balance. That's the name of the article, but the very first paragraph mentions he was about to buy Time Warner a few years ago. The CEO of Activision Blizzard drops this nugget early on while sitting at the company's Santa Monica headquarters for the first extensive interview since 2012. We'd take their IP and turn it into games. They take our IP and turn it into film and television. We'd have an extraordinary company, Kotick says, sketching out his vision for a deal in an alternate universe in which AT&T never bought Time Warner and Activision took it on instead. This would have been really bad. This would have been, well, for one, things didn't go great for either company anyway. Warner is not really in a great spot. They have no clue what to do with their IPs. They're handling DC in particular just completely weirdly. Hopefully James Gunn can get things on hand, back on track and stuff. But like Warner Brothers in general, not in a great spot right now, which is really disappointing because I like a lot of the stuff they own. I like a lot of their IPs. So yeah, I'm disappointed. AT&T did not handle this well, but Activision would not have handled it any better. In fact, Activision probably would have made things even worse than AT&T did. Just look at what's happening with Activision right now. All the toxic workplace accusations. Sorry about that. All the toxic workplace, all that stuff. It is not a good place. It's not a good environment for their workers. And that probably would have carried over to Warner Brothers. Probably would have been more trouble to get writers, more trouble to get actors because of that. On top of that, they can't even get Microsoft to buy them. Look at all the trouble going with that. And if they had bought Warner Brothers at the time, it would have made this current purchase, Microsoft trying to buy them, even more trouble. Microsoft has gone through all sorts of hell trying to buy this company, and they wouldn't have been able to buy them probably if they owned Warner Brothers. I mean, maybe they would have, but like it would have been even more trouble. So I think even though both companies did not have the best story after this, I do think it was still for the best that this didn't happen. Best for Warner Brothers, best for Activision, and best for everyone else involved. All the players, all the people watching the stuff, all the fans. It is good that this did not happen. Is there anything else from this article? Yeah, there's nothing really else from this article that I feel needs mentioned. It just goes on about all everything going on at Activision right now. But I did find this part where they said, "Oh, we were going to buy this." That would have ended really bad, and I'm glad that didn't happen. But we are going to take a quick break. I'll be right back just after this. So it looks like Apple is getting into VR. This shouldn't be surprising with all the talk of metaverse stuff the last few years. VR is the best way to do that. There's a lot of business-related uses for VR, stuff like that. I'm sure Apple would be interested in. But what I'm most interested in is the gaming aspect of this. Apple is the company that made smartphones mainstream. So there's a lot of people thinking online that they could do the same for VR headsets. So I'm reading off Forbes here. On Monday, Apple unveiled its much anticipated mixed reality headset, the Vision Pro, the tech giant's first major new product category since 2015's Apple Watch. Which, by the way, that is also what made smartwatches mainstream. So, the new device, packed with cameras and sensors, looks like a futuristic pair of ski goggles and can immerse a wearer in virtual reality, but also blend in the real world elements of augmented reality. CEO Tim Cook announced the new product at the company's Worldwide Developers Conference, held at a sparkling Apple Park headquarters in Cupertino, California. I'm just reading if there's anything interesting in the article. Prefer more compact. Brings up other people doing their headsets. Apple's rarely first, but they usually dominate the market. Apple's a bigger challenge ahead. So on and so on. No specs from what I can tell. Nothing interesting like that. But yeah, this is neat. VR is one of those things that a lot of companies have been getting into the last few years. It's not really for me, I think, because it's kind of expensive. If the cost goes down, hey, maybe one day. But right now, it's just kind of expensive to get into. So not really for me. But if Apple enters the market, that is what could bring other developers to bring their prices down. So this is good. It is also what could make virtual reality a little bit more mainstream. Google tried this. Actually, Google has been trying for years now, but and it's never really worked out. PlayStation has their headset, and I think most PSVR 1 did okay for them. Apparently, I don't know anyone personally who owns one. And there's a few others. PSVR 2 isn't doing so well. Valve has one, I think, that's done relatively okay. I think I do know a few people with that. So, yeah, VR is interesting. It's just kind of expensive. But maybe with Apple entering the market, maybe that's what gets all of that to change. But I do want to talk about something else. I want to talk about Redfall. So Jason Schreier of Bloomberg did an article on Redfall this week. Redfall, for those who don't know, I think I discussed this on a previous episode, but it's a game released by Arcane Studios, Bethesda, Microsoft. And it was very bad. It was very, very bad. Not only was it technically glitchy and had all kinds of technical issues, it was just not a good game in general. It wasn't fun to play. It was just a bad game. And Jason Schreier did an article on it, talking about what went wrong here. So apparently, it was in development before Microsoft bought Bethesda, which makes sense. It takes years for games to be developed. They were encouraging their studios to generate revenue beyond the initial sales. They were encouraging live service games. Around that time, Overwatch and Fortnite were just starting to take off, so it makes sense. They were urging microtransactions and just all kinds of stuff they wanted to make money after the game released. The people working on Redfall didn't really want to do that, but they had to, so they did, and and then Microsoft bought them. Microsoft saw the project and was like, "Hey, we kind of don't like this, but so much work has been put into this. We're just kind of release it. We're not going to help much." And that's what happened. They knew it was bad. They released it anyway because they put so much work into it, so much money into it. They were trying to get some return. And I think that kind of sucks. They should have... I'm sure there were things they could have done to fix this game. I know, one, they had to fix all the technical issues. They could have. If nothing else, that is something they could have done. Put a little bit more time into it, fix the technical issues. But as far as the gameplay goes, I'm sure there's something they could have done. Maybe make the world more populated or something. I don't know. I haven't played the game, so I don't know exactly what they could have done. But this whole situation kind of just sucks. Hopefully, Microsoft handles Starfield better, because that is a game that looks genuinely interesting. And I hope Starfield is successful. But next, I want to give my opinions on Street Fighter 6, because it is like the only game I've been playing, and I've really been enjoying myself. So let's talk about that for a second. So before I go too far into my opinions on this game, I want to give a little background here. I've said this on this podcast before, but for anyone who's just now turning in, I want to make it crystal clear where I'm coming from. I am a fighting game noob. I enjoy Super Smash Bros. Pretty casually, and I occasionally pick up fighting games when they're themed around other things I enjoy. Injustice, Marvel vs. Capcom, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, etc., etc. But I haven't really played a Street Fighter game since Street Fighter 2. And even that, like, I've never been good at it. I picked it up for the Switch, took it to play with some friends at one point and just got completely destroyed. I also played it on the Super Nintendo back in the day. I enjoyed Street Fighter 2, but I haven't really played the franchise since. I've always kind of been interested in the different stories of the characters, but I've never like played a Street Fighter game since, because I'm just not that good at fighting games. But after seeing all the trailers showing off World Tour mode, I was interested in picking it up. So I waited for the reviews. Reviews were good. So I picked it up day one. And I am glad I did. Street Fighter 6 is absolutely fantastic. It's everything I'd want out of a fighting game. I honestly hope every fighting game takes this example and includes something like World Tour mode and the modern controls, because I need more of this. I know that's not a popular opinion. There's people in the fighting game community who don't really care about getting new people into the game, and so like they don't understand why modern controls or World Tour mode is there. I saw some people are like outright upset about the modern controls. I really like them. They made it so much easier for me to get into this. They aren't perfect. It can be difficult to control exactly what move you're using, but for someone like me who doesn't usually play a whole lot of fighting games, they are good enough to learn the combos with. They actually make the game almost sort of like Smash in the way it controls. Not exactly, but similar. It was a good inclusion. I think more fighting games should do that. I want to talk about World Tour mode for a second, because, man, I've said it a few times now, and I'm going to say it again. It is really good. It's what got me to pick this up. It was a good decision to include it. It is very fun. I enjoy exploring the world as my custom fighter, and learning the different fighting styles of the different characters and just combining their special moves to make something my own. I wish you could customize the different fighting styles a little bit more. Being locked into one character's moves outside of the special moves is a bit annoying. I wish you could customize like each individual move slot to match a different fighter's move and just like pretty much make your own style. I'm sure it would be difficult to program, but if I could customize all the moves, not just the special moves, it would make this game that much better and might make my character a lot more personal. And it would fit the theme of the story that they're going with a little bit more. I also spent a little bit of time in the practice mode. Not a whole lot. It's not really something I care that much about, but like I spent a bit of time, and I can appreciate the different settings and how it's set up. I'm pretty sure it'd be more useful for someone who takes the game a lot more seriously than I do and plays competitively. I'm sure those options would be more useful under those circumstances. But even for me, it was helpful enough for a beginner like myself. I was a bit annoyed by the forced tutorial, though, at the beginning of opening up the game, because everything in the forced tutorial is just taught in the World Tour mode anyway, so I essentially have to do a tutorial twice. A little bit annoying. From a graphics and performance standpoint, there's nothing particularly special, but nothing bad either. It runs at a smooth 60 FPS, although not by default. I forget if there was a setting when I first started playing, that was nearly like 20 hours of gameplay ago. But I had to look up if the game was 60 FPS and then go turn it on, because I didn't really notice a difference. Sometimes I can notice a difference between 30 and 60 FPS, sometimes I can't. I'm not really noticing it as much here. My only real complaint is the starting roster. I know there's plans for DLC and all that, but it's still disappointing to see the roster is a bit small. Well, I know I've missed out on a few Street Fighter games. I know there's a lot more characters to choose from to include, and the 18 available characters just doesn't feel like enough given the history of this franchise. Especially with how World Tour modes works, I would have been happier with 25 to 30 from the start. I do hope they introduce the new DLC characters quickly. When they're introduced, I hope they're introduced in the World Tour mode as well, and that acts as DLC for World Tour mode as well, and adding some more story and gameplay there, because that's what I really enjoy. It's easily been my favorite part of the game, and I just if they're adding DLC characters, I hope it expands upon the World Tour mode as well. Bringing in some characters from Final Fight would also be neat. That's a series I do enjoy, and was happy to see so many references to in the World Tour mode. So my final thoughts, all in all, here is I hope every other fighting game learns from this, and this becomes the default way of putting fighting games together. There's always plenty to do as far as multiplayer goes in most fighting games, but most fighting games can't seem to get the single player right for a more casual audience. They usually have an arcade mode, whatever, and stuff like that, and like a story where you do a fight, do some cutscenes, do a fight, do some cutscenes, but it's nothing that particularly involving like the World Tour mode is. And I'm glad they had that here. Street Fighter 6 does single player correctly, and if the next Mortal Kombat game or Tekken game or anything along those lines, the next Injustice game, whatever, also has a mode similar to World Tour mode, it would be a day one purchase for me as well. Capcom has hit it out of the park with this, as they have with most of their releases here lately, and it's certainly the most fun I've had with a fighting game in years, maybe ever, honestly. I would recommend Street Fighter 6 to just about everyone. If you're at the store, pick it up, or just go download it online, pick it up there, purchase it. This is a great game. You will enjoy it. But we're going to take a quick break. I'll be back for the final few segments right after a little bit of music plays. So let's do that. So, most people know, or at least most people listening to this would know, that I am a big PlayStation person. I enjoy Nintendo a lot too. I don't really care as much about Xbox, but I do enjoy Nintendo and PlayStation. But point is, I own a PlayStation, and I'm sure many other people listening to this also own a PlayStation. And so I wanted to let you know that they're having some sales right now. It's called the Days of Play sale. If you open up or turn on your PlayStation, I'm sure it says there too, like when you go to the main menu, Days of Play sale. But this is a pretty good sale, worth checking out. So I just wanted to let people know. First thing on sale, they do have PlayStation Plus memberships for sale. The middle tier is really good, so that would be worth checking out. I'm going to go through the sales page here real quick. Miles Morales, Spider-Man Miles Morales, the PS4 and the PS5 version is $20, although that's just the basic version. That isn't the version that comes with the PS5 version of the original game. The remastered version of the original game. That's just the Miles Morales game. So be aware of that. GTA 5, if you're one of the people who doesn't own that yet, also on sale, along with the money for GTA Online, it looks like. Madden 23 is on sale. The Last of Us Part 1, the remaster, is on sale for $50, which I already own The Last of Us on PS4. I don't think... maybe when it hits the $20 mark, I'd be more interested in that. But right now, that's not worth it, in my opinion. But hey, if you haven't played The Last of Us, you don't own it, that is probably the best way to do it. I would still say you should buy that at that point. Horizon Forbidden West is on sale. That was one of my favorite games of last year. Perhaps my absolute favorite game. Ghost of Tsushima is on sale. Dead Island 2, Gran Turismo, lots of good stuff. God of War Ragnarok, 2K23, Red Dead Redemption 2 is on sale. I might pick that one up. That's something I've been meaning to try. I've heard it might be a little bit too realistic for my tastes, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe I might pick it up, give it a try. Dead Space, the new one, is on sale. The Ultimate Edition is also on sale with Miles Morales. Gotham Knights is on sale. I had fun with that game at $23 or $23.09 specifically. That seems worth it. You should go try it. What else here? Sonic Frontiers, Marvel Midnight Suns, Ratchet and Clank for $30. That's okay. $30 is still maybe a little bit expensive for something I'm not sure if I'll like or not. But I don't know. It's probably a good price. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, I've heard good things about that. Witcher 3. If you've watched the TV series, you can go play The Witcher 3. What else here? A bunch of indie games, it looks like. Resident Evil stuff. Assassin's Creed stuff. Skyrim, if you don't own Skyrim yet. Avengers. $6 for Avengers. That is actually a really good deal. It also, I think it comes with all of the DLC at this point. So that would be very much worth it. I had fun with that game, just playing through the story. Guardians of the Galaxy is on sale. It's okay. I know this is not a popular opinion, but I'm struggling to get through it. The shooting isn't for me. I'm sure other people would enjoy it though. I'll probably beat it eventually and give my full thoughts at that point. Goat Simulator 3, which is actually a relatively new game. I think it's only come out in the last few months. It's on sale for $20. Hot Wheels Unleashed. If you're into racing games, that one's pretty fun. Battlefield, Doom, lots of good stuff. There's 21 pages of sales here. I'm not going to go through all of them. Hades, Dark Souls, SpongeBob, Among Us. Although Among Us is already pretty cheap, so like whatever there. The Outer Worlds, lots of stuff on sale here. So if you haven't already, you should go check out the PlayStation Days of Play sale because it is a really good sale, some really good prices. But I want to talk about something else for a moment. Specifically, I want to talk about a company that I didn't think I'd be talking about on this podcast, but here we are. I'm going to talk about Comcast. So a bunch of market analysis people think Comcast is getting into gaming. I get this from themiddlemarket.com. Robert, who is the Comcast CEO, may have tipped his hand last year when he briefly explored a deal involving video game company Electronics Art, home of popular titles like Madden NFL and Star Wars. Comcast followers suspect he would like to add that kind of highly lucrative content to his empire, possibly in deals with companies like Nintendo, Take-Two Interactive, or even Activision Blizzard. So, this is like the CEO of Comcast. What else did Comcast own at this point? I'm sure they own a bunch of stuff. No. Universal, DreamWorks, Peacock. Sure, okay. But point is, a bunch of like money analysis people, business analysis people, thinks that Comcast really wants to get into gaming, and this would be really bad. Anyone who's dealt with Comcast before knows how bad this could be. They are a giant corporation. They would probably be one of the biggest people in the gaming market. They are not a good corporation. They have they actually kind of monopolize the internet market in certain areas, the cable market in certain areas. It's kind of really bad. And so I actually kind of hope this isn't true. I don't want Comcast buying a gaming company. I'm glad they didn't buy EA. That would have been really bad. And I just hope this doesn't happen. I do not want Comcast in gaming. I guess one way they could get in, according to this article, is through Warner Brothers, like maybe buying Warner Brothers. Or a deal with Warner Brothers, which I don't think they'd be able to buy Warner Brothers. Like, and even this article mentions that could face antitrust hurdles. An easier path would be a new entrant, like starting their own company, I guess. And then it talks about some Hulu stuff. Okay, I don't think there's anything else in this article related directly to gaming, but or anything else in this article that interests me at all. But point is, Comcast should not get into gaming. That would be bad. That would be bad for gamers. There is nothing good about that. I hope they stay out. But next, I want to talk about Summer Game Fest as the final topic of the day, because there's a lot to talk about there. So this week, Jeff Keighley, or Geoff Keighley, as I prefer to call him, did some interviews and talked about Summer Game Fest. There was nothing super interesting in any of them. He mentioned there'll be movie trailers, which I think everyone knew there was going to be movie trailers. There was just not a whole lot there. He did say he was encouraging more gameplay. He didn't want as many CGI trailers, so that's nice. That is not what's to talk about. What there really is to talk about is the full schedule, because there's a lot. First off, I want to give credit where credit is due. This list was compiled by Jeff Grubb on his Discord server, and also credit needs to go to Brad Lynch on Twitter, who made like a not a Google document, but like a Excel spreadsheet essentially, to make the time zones easier. Those two people did all the work in putting this list together, but I wanted to make sure anyone listening to this kind of has an idea on when showcases are taking place. So everything really starts on June 7th. Well, really, it started on June 1st with the MetaQuest Gaming Showcase, but who cares? Actually, even before that, there was the PlayStation Showcase, which was fine, but like that's already happened. I'm talking about the future here. Times. June 7th, Guerrilla Collective online showcase. That will probably be mostly indie games, but I like indie games, so I might tune in. Then June 8th is the main Summer Games Fest showcase. That will have a little bit of everything. I think I've gone over it in a previous episode of this podcast before. It will just have a little bit of everything. That is at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, EDT, EST, so on. All of the times, by the way, I'm giving are in EDT, EST, essentially the times here in Indiana. So Summer Game Fest, 3 p.m. June 8th. After Summer Game Fest, which looks like it will be about 2 hours, after Summer Game Fest is Day of the Devs. Once again, that will probably be mostly indie games. Devolver Digital will have their showcase at 6, which that should be one. I recommend the Devolver Digital showcase. If you're only hitting the important showcases, Devolver Digital should be one of them. A Day of the Devs is usually okay to skip. Devolver Digital, though, one, is just a good showcase to watch. It's really funny. It's quite humorous to anyone who follows the gaming landscape. But they also have been just a hit with their indie games here lately. Devolver Digital is kind of like a publishing studio more than a developing studio. They mostly publish indie games. But they have been on a roll here lately with what they've been publishing. So that is definitely worth paying attention to. Then there's the same day, the next day, June 9th at 11 a.m. is the Accessibility Summer Showcase. From my understanding, this is mostly going to be games designed by disabled people with different accessibility options. I think it would be interesting to watch, but I'm not sure how many new games will be announced there. I will probably watch that, but I can't blame anyone for not tuning in. Tribeca Game spotlights after that in the Future of Play Direct. Oh, wait, no, just Tribeca is that day. So that's something to watch. Then June 10th, Future of Play Direct, Wholesome Direct, which I usually enjoy the Wholesome Direct. That's at 12. The Future of Play is at 11. The Wholesome Direct is at 12. I usually enjoy that enough. So, I don't know. It's not a huge showcase, but it's worth tuning into, in my opinion. The Future Games Show is after that at 1. And the OTK Games Expo, which I don't actually know what that is at 3. So, but really, what most people will probably care about is the next day. June 11th, the Xbox Game Showcase at 1 lasts like 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that. I don't remember. But then the PC Gaming Show is at 4. Xbox should have some good stuff. PC Gaming Show is kind of mid, I gotta be honest. I like it enough. I like the way it's presented. But most of the games that show up there are usually in another showcase. It's fine. I'll probably tune in. I'll usually tune in for all of these. And then June 12th is looking like another big day. There's a Ubisoft Forward at 1 p.m. EDT. And then there's literally just announced. Actually, it may have been leaked by one of their Twitter accounts before it was supposed to be announced. I'm not sure of the exact specifics here. But according to Gaming Links and Rumors subreddit and several news outlets, the Capcom Showcase will be at 6 p.m. on June 12th. Those will both be worth tuning in for, showing up for. Ubisoft, I know they have not a great reputation in the gaming sphere right now, but I know a lot of people like Assassin's Creed. They have an Avatar game that's supposed to release at some point. They might have news on a Star Wars game. I'm hoping some news about a Watch Dogs game, but I know that's pretty unlikely and probably not going to happen. But that's really the franchise I care the most about for Ubisoft. But the Star Wars thing would be cool. Then Capcom Showcase. I need everyone to hope with me, pray, do whatever it is you do, wish into existence new Ace Attorney stuff. I would really like a collection of Ace Attorney games 4, 5, and 6. But really anything Ace Attorney related would be great. I'm sure there'll also be Street Fighter DLC. Capcom's really been on a roll. They've been one of the best third-party publishers and developers here the last few years. That will be worth tuning in for. June 13th is the Dames for Games Showcase. I think that's mostly, from what I read, that is mostly games developed by women. So that would be cool. That would be something good to tune in for. And then the last thing mentioned here is the RGG Summit Summer 2023, which, let me look up what that is here real quick. RGG Summer Summit. It's the Yakuza stuff. Okay, that makes sense. I don't really care about Yakuza, so I wouldn't know that. But if you care about Yakuza, June 15th, 11 p.m. EDT, which I'm sure it's that late because of Japanese times. Some things I didn't mention that you may have noticed I didn't mention here. I did not mention a Nintendo Direct because there's not one currently scheduled. It's possible. Some other companies that usually have presentations, though. EA, Square Enix, and Limited Run have had presentations in previous years. They do not have presentations currently announced, but if they have some at some point in this month, it would not be surprising. So I'm not mentioning them because it's not currently scheduled. But if tomorrow, after I record this, it's announced, it wouldn't surprise me if they announce a Square Enix or an EA presentation. As of recording, those aren't announced, but it would not surprise me if they were. And then some other things to mention. Later this summer, there may be more games announced at San Diego Comic-Con, QuakeCon, or Gamescom. Who knows? But that's not like in this time frame. Then THQ Nordic is also having their own showcase later in August. Also not in this like weekly time frame here. So that's why I didn't mention them. But that is stuff that's coming up. A lot of cool game announcements. I am pretty excited for the week ahead. I'm sure I'm going to talk all about them on next week's show. So I have some bad news. That's the end of the show. no more else to discuss this week. Nothing else to discuss this week. I'll be back next week talking about all the big gaming announcements. Maybe next week. You know what? I might skip next week, to be honest, and just talk about it the following week, because there will still be announcements going on when I usually put this podcast up. So maybe next week, maybe not. Definitely the week after. Regardless, next episode we will talk about all the Summer Game Fest announcements and all the gaming news. There'll be a lot to talk about. Lots of cool games will be announced, and I'll be happy to talk about them. So, if you are listening on YouTube, I need a favor. Please like the video. Please comment, giving your thoughts on anything we discussed. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And click the notification bell so that you know about the future uploads. And that would all be very helpful. If you're listening on a different podcasting service, something like, I don't know, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, any other podcasting service where this is being uploaded to, make sure you subscribe to the RSS feed, I believe is what they'll have you do. If there's a subscribe button or a follow button or anything along those lines, press that so you know about future episodes of this podcast. I do usually upload episodes weekly. I think it is likely that there won't be a new episode next week because the news will still be developing at that point. But the following week, there definitely will be. Around the same time, same place. I hope you tune in. I will talk to you all next time for lots of gaming news.